Over the years, I have purchased way too many plugins for how simple I make my audiobook plugin choices. In my workflow, I really like to keep it simple and only use the basic tools that come with almost every DAW and extra tools when I need them. So today, I'm going to break down the go-to audiobook plugins that I use the most. As you know, in audiobook mastering, there is always some form of EQ being used to clean up or bring out the vocal elements that make your voice shine. So first, before we jump into the video, I want to give you a free gift, and that is my narration EQ guide, so you can get a better system for how to use EQ. It's just a very simple guide that's a 4-step process to really make your narration and your audiobooks pop with clarity. To grab this, just head to thehomeaudioproject.com/EQ and sign up there. So what are the go-to plugins I use? Let's jump into a session and walk through the process. All right, now that we're in a Pro Tools session, I'm going to make this really quick since it's just my go-to chain or my go-to stack, whatever you want to call it, my preferred order of plugins of choice. And again, it is based on the narrator, right? If you're an audio engineer and you're dealing with a very dynamic narrator, your plugin order may change. If they have more mouth noise, you'll probably use more specific audio restoration tools to clean up that mouth noise. You're going to find out the tools you need to get the job done. I like my plugins in this type of order, but again, there are no rules in audio. Now, there are guidelines you want to follow, of course, but it really just depends on the needs you have for that specific audio. If you're a narrator and you're just learning in the mastering phase or the processing phase of your audiobooks, then maybe this stack that I use will help you. Now, there may be some learning curves, right? Like you may not know how to use a compressor or what settings mean, and you could be new to all of it, right? I do want to put a disclaimer, though, that it does depend on the narrator. Now, this narrator does have a good amount of noise, as you can see throughout the recording. So I would probably have to put on a declick or maybe an extra expander to really clean this up. Now, this is probably just going to be cleaned up in editing here. Okay, so let's jump to the chain. As you can see, I already have it loaded up here. I always want to use a compressor first. The main reason why is because I want to make sure I can even out all of the quiet stuff and all of the loud stuff before I start applying EQ. Now, there can be a method as to why you use EQ first. For me personally, I find that I work best if I have a very clean recording with all of the audio leveled out first. And then after that, I can apply my EQ. And then as you can see, I have the Maxim plugin in the Pro Tools. This is the limiter. And then I put the de-esser last. So I'll give you a really quick and easy version as to why I do this. So if we were to play with this compressor, I'm just going to ballpark all this real quick. So let's give it a decently fast attack with a decently fast release. And let's give it a listen.
I know you regret your affairs and
Yeah, it's way too much. I only want to compress about 3 dB.
I know you regret your affairs and other desperate acts and not treating that amazing woman like she deserved.
Cool. Okay. Now this is the channel strip in Pro Tools. What the channel strip is it's a 3-in-1 combo. You get a expander gate module, another compressor limiter module, and then you have your EQ section down here. This is a cool plugin. You can turn them off if you only want to utilize certain elements. And in most cases, because I'm already using a compressor first here, sometimes I do bypass the compressor in this module, which in this case for this plugin is on this side. This side is the gate slash expander. So let's utilize that. I'm going to go with a very quick and easy setting that I've used. So let's highlight some silence here on either side. Make the ratio a 1:4 ratio. We're going to gently make this knee here, which just makes this a very soft curve. And let's just bump up the threshold a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to highlight some of the quiet sections. I'm going to do a little bit faster of a release on this because I want the expander to let go very quick when the audio of this section comes back in. So we've already got a extremely fast attack, and I want a decently fast release as well. So that way, the attack meaning, as soon as this phrase is done, the gate will shut down, right, and make this completely quiet, but then release extremely fast when this part comes in. So let's just see how this plays out.
Just make sure you direct that anger and disappointment.
Cool. Perfect. So then after that, I would move to my EQ, and you can utilize your filters here. I always start with my filters first, then I move to what I call the nasal frequency, right? Which is in that low mid frequency range. A lot of honk, a lot of boxiness can build up in human speech. Then I want my limiter before my de-esser. Now, why is that? Because what does a limiter do? It turns everything up, right? Makes everything what I'm going to call radio ready or audiobook ready, everything at a very comfortable listening volume, right? So we've already set our ceiling for ACX standards or most publishers, which is -3. And then we just from there adjust our threshold. Now, what a de-esser does cleans up all of the sibilants. So the hard T's, S's, SH's, or the C's, right? Everything that has a lot of sibilants. And again, this is just my approach. If I was to utilize the de-esser, and just for fun, again, let's just highlight this section, and I'm going to leave the frequency just exactly where it's at and just bring down the threshold.
I know you regret your affairs and other desperate acts and not treating that amazing woman like she deserves.
So we have a little bit of attenuation, a little bit of reduction, right? And that's great. But now let's bring up our limiter. And again, it's already set to our ceiling that we need. Now let's just turn the volume up.
I know you regret your affairs and other desperate acts and not treating that amazing woman like she deserves.
For this example, I'm not showing the RMS value, but let's just say we're hitting the proper RMS value and our peak is already at 3, so we know we're good. But the one thing I noticed was as soon as I started turning up the volume, the S's came right back. Now I'm going to show you a different view of this so you can actually see it in real time. So in Pro Tools, we can pull up the exact same plugins in our chain, but we can actually process the audio and print it down just like you would in the old school reel-to-reel tape days, where as soon as you print it down, it's locked in. So for this example, let's copy our settings from our chain. I'm just going to bypass these as I go, so that way we know we're not double processing the audio. So let's paste it. And just for visual representation, we have the exact same settings as our plugin chain. So let's move this down so we can see how the audio changes and render this. Great. Nice and even, but it's quieter, right? So now let's take our channel strip and we'll do the same thing here. We will copy the settings. And again, for this example, we're just utilizing the expander. So I'll bypass this plugin. We'll go up to the menu and choose the setting where we can print down the audio. So let's paste this in, move this off to the side. And you won't see much change here because we're just utilizing the expander. But as you can see in this little area, something did disappear. So let's undo and redo. So it looks like we're cleaning it up. You can even see it in this little section. If I undo, you'll see all that audio disappear. And now it's gone, right? Now again, let's see why. All right. So I'm just going to copy this de-esser and we'll bypass it and we'll go to the de-esser here and paste that down. Now we're going to watch the sibilants or the S's get reduced. Let's undo that real quick. So you can see in this section, there's some sibilants. It's getting quieted down there. There's some sibilants in this area, and it's getting quieted down there. Great. And now let's just pull up our limiter plugin and copy those settings. And paste those in. So that way we're bringing up the volume to ACX standards. Great. Okay, and now that we've got the limiter on there, you can see that in this area, the sibilance, while it's still reduced, it did bring it back up a little bit. So in my plugin order, if I undo all that, so right now you can see in this clip, I'm still on the de-esser. If I undo again, now we're back to the channel strip. So this is just going in reverse order of these plugins. So now let's flop these here. You don't need to do this, but I'm just doing this for a visual representation of the stack. Now that we're on the channel strip processed file here, now let's utilize our limiter. And we'll give it the ACX standards there. Great, everything's loud, everything sounds really great. Now let's go to our de-esser and copy those settings. Change this to the de-esser and paste those in. And now that this is limited, so we've brought the volume up, now we can de-ess, and you'll see that the volume doesn't change, but the sibilance gets tamed down. Let's undo that real quick and just look at this spot right here. So great. So we're at ACX level, but you can see all this sibilance getting turned down. So there you go. As you can see, that's exactly why I have my plugin stack in this order. Now, again, just to reiterate, if you have more problems in your room, or if you're an engineer dealing with a narrator that may have more mouth noise, you're probably going to have to use other plugins in a different order. But this is a very simple plugin stack, plugin chain, whatever you want to call it, that you can use to get started with. All right, there you go. A breakdown of my go-to plugins of choice when working with 90% of the narrators that I have. Now, if you are the type of person that does have more pops and clicks in your recording, then extra editing or specific plugins to clean all that up may apply to your situation. But just don't overanalyze your voice with a microscope. Keep the end listener in mind. We can all be hard on ourselves, so I just wanted to break down my plugin choice for you, if you have a fairly clean recording. Now remember, you can download my narration EQ guide at thehomeaudioproject.com/EQ. And this has helped hundreds of narrators so far. So if you don't have it, pick it up. If you do have it, I hope it's been working well for you. But other than that, I really hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you in another video real soon.